What up, YouTube fam, Never Torpid fam? It's finally here. Over 10,000 views on our sub rogue guide. As promised, the Assassination rogue guide is here. And a huge thanks once again. We couldn't have done this without Pace, and we couldn't have done this without RAZ. These two rogues gave me the knowledge that I needed to teach you guys everything you're going to need to know to get a strong core for Assassination rogue guide. And then, of course, tailor it to yourselves, but start here. You're going to learn a ton. There's some secret game tech. There's some secret rogue tech. There's tons of builds. So thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you for tuning in. And as always, if you want to keep it never torpid in the game and out of the game, you got to want it for yourself, and then you got to want it for others. Thank you guys. Let's get into it. Walking you guys through the stat priority and the enchants, I feel like the armory page is the absolute best page for you guys to get all the information at any time in the future and right now. So I'm going to have Pace's armory in the description below. And what you're going to be able to do is open up the armory just like we're doing. It's going to show you every piece he has. And I want to highlight that he's crafted this ring and crafted this neck piece, which is extremely important to take a look at. Also, you'll see the names of his enchants and all the enchanted gear all in one spot, being updated as he updates it. You're going to see the tier pieces he has, which we're going to talk about later, all in one spot. And then I'm going to scroll down because I want to talk to you guys about the stat priority. The stat priority we're going to be looking for is a ton of mastery with Assassination Rogue, and that's because it increases the bleed and poison damage for our abilities, and you're going to find out later how strong and how potent our bleeds and poisons really are. So you can see that he has 66% mastery right now, and then the second stat that he aims for is crit, followed by haste. So as you guys are gearing up, you're going to be looking to get mastery gear first when possible, then crit, and then haste gear last. It looks like he probably has no pieces of haste gear, and you're going to be able to follow everything along here, double check with your gear, and get your character as strong as possible so that everything you find out later in the guide, your character is pulling off with the same strength as Pace's rogue. Okay, talking tier set for rogue. It's absolutely busted for Assassination, and you need it. I'm going to tell you which piece you're not going to get, but first, I want to show you guys how to open tier so you can see it on your rogue or on any character. You're going to go ahead and press Shift J, or at least for me, Shift J opens my adventure guide. And then what you're going to do is click raids at the bottom. You're going to switch it back to Shadowlands, the expansion before. Bear with me. Click on Shadowlands, then go down to loot. And when you get down to loot, you're going to see there's powers, and they're old legendaries, doesn't matter. Click on item sets. And these tier pieces are the Dragonflight tier pieces. Okay, we're going to talk about the 2 set and the 4 set later when you see them in action. But just know, in Pace's words, they're broken right now. Having 4 set on Assassination is a huge power jump. So every piece you're going to be trying to get is the head, the shoulders, the chest, and the hands. And you're not going to get the legs. However, you need to do whatever you need to do to get 4 tier pieces as soon as possible. So if you get some from the vaults and it happens to be a piece, it happens to be the legs, then that's fine. Use the legs. Getting 4 set any way you can is the most important. But once you can, you're going to have all the pieces but the legs for tier, guys. All right. Talking about rogue, I think it's important that if you're just picking the class up, 1, you should know that it's an extremely fun, unique class. But 2, it is quite a lot and pretty overwhelming. So I want to add into this beginner guide just the basics of rogue. So I'm just going to go over the abilities in their basic form and kind of talk about how a rogue works. And then later on, you'll be able to keep up with all the rotations we're doing. And it'll be easier for you to pick up the abilities and the talents we've added to them. So the first thing you should know is that rogue works off generating combo points and spending energy. So I've set the spells up on the right. These are the ones I want you to focus on, and I want to walk you through them. The first ability is called Mutilate, and what it does is it's one of your combo point generators. It actually awards 2 combo points when you press it, and you can see here I now have 5 combo points from pressing Mutilate, which does damage. The second combo point generator you have is called Garrote, and what that does is it puts a bleed on them. So Mutilate's going to do instant damage and award 2 combo points. Garrote's going to do a bleed onto them and award 1 combo point. Later on, these abilities are going to be enhanced by talents, but just understand that these are your 2 out of stealth generators. Then you have 5 generators here: Envenom, Crimson Tempest, Rupture, Slice and Dice, and Kidney Shot. All consume your combo points and cost energy and have an effect on them. So Envenom is going to consume your combo points, and it's going to do nature damage, and then it's going to increase the chance for your poisons to be applied. Crimson Tempest is an AoE ability that's going to put bleeds on the surrounding enemies. Rupture is going to put a single bleed onto the training dummy. Slice and Dice is going to buff your character and increase your attack speed by 50%. And Kidney Shot's going to stun the target. So I'm just going to walk you through the animations and how they look. I'm going to press Envenom. My guy's going to do an instant 32k and increase the chance for poisons. I'm going to press Mutilate a few more times, get my combo points back. Crimson Tempest, you'll see it's a cool AoE that applies a bleed up top. Going to Mutilate again. Maybe we'll mix in a Garrote to put a silence on him, get full combo points. Rupture is going to put an individual bleed there. Mutilate again. Slice and Dice at the top right of my screen. You can see now our attack speed for 35 seconds is increased by 50%. And your stun, of course, Kidney Shot. You're going to see my raid frames at the top show that the training dummy is currently stunned. So you have your out of stealth generators and your combo point spenders that cost energy. The generators, remember, do not cost any energy, but your combo points will spend the energy. The next thing I want to talk about is stealth. So when you go invisible, in World of Warcraft, you're allowed to be invisible for the entire, as long as you want, you know? There isn't a little timer, and this makes Rogue extremely unique. And when you go invisible, you're going to get a different action bar and have abilities you can only press invisible. So you're going to see Ambush is going to do big damage to them, but can only be used when in stealth. Cheap Shot is another 4-second stun that can only be used in stealth. And Garrote, even though we can use it out of stealth, we can also open with it in stealth. That's why I have it in both spots, because some of the abilities that you can use out of stealth, we're going to use in stealth later on in the build. So I'll just show you what it looks like. Ambush is going to do big damage and generate 2 combo points from stealth. And then I'm going to walk away from the training dummy. And once your combat drops, you're going to be able to re-stealth. Cheap Shot from stealth is going to stun the training dummy for 4 seconds. And Garrote's going to apply that bleed, as well as later on it's going to silence them with a talent I'm going to walk you through. And that's really how stealth is going to operate. The next 2 abilities that I wanted to add are SHIV. So SHIV, we'll read it at the bottom right. You're going to attack with your poison blades, doing physical damage and dispelling enrage effects and applying your poison. So this ability is on a short cooldown, and it's really strong to apply your poisons. We're gonna talk about how it's built in the rotation later, but when you SHIV and instantly apply your poisons, it's going to do max damage. So just wanted to highlight that here because it's a short CD. The other one that you're going to see in the rotation is Fan of Knives, which we can press from anywhere. And Fan of Knives is going to award a combo point, and it's also going to put your bleeds on the surrounding enemies. You can see right here my bleeds are coming up on the training dummies. These abilities here are sort of the core to a SAS rogue. And then later on, I'm going to show you the enhanced abilities, your 1-minute cooldowns, your 2-minute cooldowns, and how to work your 1-minute and 2-minute cooldowns into your basic rotation, and then take you through the talents that buff these cooldowns. The last thing I want to talk about, don't want to overwhelm you guys, is just poison. So Assassination is basically the master of poisons in World of Warcraft, and you can apply 5 different poisons to your weapons that all have different abilities, and the number of poisons you can apply are based on the talents we select. So later on, I'm going to tell you what poisons to put on your weapons, show you how many poisons you can have on, and how all of this is going to work together. But as long as you understand that rogues generating combo points with combo point generators, and then spending combo points and using energy on different utilities, you'll kind of have a better understanding of rogue and why we're pressing our buttons later on. All right, guys, so this is the import string for the arena build, the solo shuffle build. The import string is going to be below. You're going to take that import string in the description. You're going to come here, and you're going to click import, and you're going to import it into your talents. This build is built around running 4 poisons, having your Mark for Death, Kidney, and your 3 really strong abilities, and we're going to get to all that. Just make sure you get the string imported. Let's get into it. All right, I'm going to take you through opening in an arena situation. This is what you're going to be looking to do at the beginning of every single game. So It starts with knowing that we're going to have improved Garrote, which is going to increase the damage by 30% in PvP, and let us use Garrote for 3 seconds after opening for stealth. So it's extremely to note that what you're going to want to do is get those Garrotes out in the 3-second window. So I put everything in an order here, and the 3 Garrotes I'm going to click individually so you can see. Now I'm going to walk you through 2 different enemies, assuming it's a solo shuffle and an arena. Rarely are all 3 close enough, and you won't have enough time to get to the third. However, if an opportunity presents itself where you can cleave all 3 with the Garrotes, it's extremely strong. But there's a lot of situations where you're going to CC the healer anyways, but definitely you're trying to get your Garrote up onto 2 targets, and in fact use it a 3rd time on the target you already put it on at the beginning. So I'm going to walk you through it. What I'm going to do is thistle tea, and then go into my Garrotes and then into a rotation. Might be a little bit slower here because I want you to see, but ideally this is going to be fast paced. So I'm going to go to Bree. Maybe I just sap somebody, and I'm going to thistle tea, Garrote, run to the training dummy, Garrote, run back to Gubs, get the 3rd Garrote, into the rupture, into a recommend, read into the kidney, to the SHIV, to the mutilates, and then the envenoms. Every time it lands on a blue combo point, I'm able to land the 5-point envenom, okay? Now, this is an opening without sending your Deathmark, without sending Exang, without sending any of your big CDs, okay? And this is what you're looking to do because rogues have enough pressure just in the kidney and with these abilities plus your teammate to make the enemies use a lot of defensives right away. So you never want to overcommit because this is plenty right here. All right, the alternative opening for Rogue is against Windwalkers and Warriors. These classes are going to disarm you if you come out and just try to get your Garrotes out to cleave. So you need to open with a stun onto the Warrior. This is what happens if you go to Garrote, the PvP training dummy, as your kill target and try to get your 2nd Garrote onto the Warrior. You're going to notice here that as soon as I open and try to go towards Babs, I'm instantly disarmed. And it's going to nullify the 3 seconds we get from improved Garrote. So what you're going to do instead is open with a cheap shot, okay? So what I'm going to do here is cheap shot the Warrior, put a Garrote on him, and then put one other Garrote onto the training dummy, and then get back to Babs, and I would go into my rotation here of the ruptures, okay? This way you still get 2 Garrotes off with the improved Garrote, and you lock down the Warrior, preventing those disarms. Okay, so I just showed you the opener, and I'm going to show you the big damage rotation, but first I want to show you perhaps the most important point throughout the game. What are you looking to do on Rogue? What abilities are we pressing? And really, what's the angle that Rogue plays? And it's actually very, very simple, but maybe not as obvious as you think. A lot of people are only putting their bleeds up on one target and chasing one target, but that'll be the last thing you want to do. With Rogue, you're ultimately looking to cleave 2 targets and sometimes 3 targets in the 3v3. If the other healer is not CC'd, it's totally fine to start cleaving him down. What I want to tell you guys is the more bleeds you have up on the enemies, of course, the more damage, but the more energy regen you're going to get because we are going to get energy regen from your bleeds being out. But Rogue can kill any target. So the reason we're cleaving both targets is because both targets are good for Rogue, and you're going to pick a target depending on the situation. So what you're going to do is, in the beginning, you're going to make sure you use 1 T offensively. And then if you think it's a solo shuffle, you can go ahead and use both of your Thistle Teas pretty early on because the game's going to end. You want to get that damage out. You want to just be going for it. But in a 3v3 match that you think is going to be more drawn out, you're using your Teas no longer for the mastery damage buff, but to get the mastery back. That's why we're able to run such low haste, is because, we're going to get the energy back from the T. Right? Rogues are heavy mastery and less haste because we get enough energy regen from our Thistle Teas and from our bleeds. Then from there, the way we're cleaving multiple targets is with Garrote and Rupture. So you're going to want to have Garrote on both of the targets you're cleaving and Rupture on both the targets and maintaining that uptime. As they're falling off, make sure you refresh them. And then something that I thought a lot of people don't know that I learned is you want to maintain Slice and Dice, and you want to get it onto your character as early as possible, whatever feels fluent for you. And what you're going to do is Slice and Dice at 1 to 3 combo points, because once you start going into your damage rotation and casting your Envenom, it's going to extend the duration of Slice and Dice, and pretty much you're going to be able to maintain it for the majority of the game. So while you're cleaving both targets, You're also going to be using the serrated bone spike. This does more damage than the mutilate, costs less energy, and applies a bleed. So you're going to use these pretty early on, and then every time you get a stack back, you're going to send another one out. And then, of course, from there, we're going to have our mutilate damage and our envenom damage on top of our 4 poisons, of course, for the build that we're walking through. And then when possible, you're going to make sure you use your echoing reprimand and your mark for death and your kidney shot off cooldown. I can't stress it enough. You want to make sure you continuously send the kidneys because the kidneys are what forces their defensive. So these are the abilities and the thought process of what you're doing throughout the game. Let's get into the big kill window when you've got them with no trinket, no ice lock, no defensives, how you're going to take them down in the proper way to do it. Big damage death marks paired with exangs. Deathmark going to make your 3 bleeds, your garrote, rupture, and your poisons do 100% of the normal damage, and then Zang going to make them go 80% faster, okay? Important to note, though, 3-minute cooldown versus 2-minute cooldown, and we're going to get to that. But this isn't so much a rotation because you're already going to have your bleeds out. But I just want to show you the ideal situation is you're going to be already hitting the target, right? This is in battle. You've already gone for a while. You know they have no defensives left. This is where you're going for the kill. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to get my rupture on them. And then I'm going to start getting all my poisons on them. Then I'm going to apply a garrote. And then we would have a slice and dice running. So when all of our poisons are on the enemy, with our garrote, our rupture, and our slice and dice running, what we're going to do is reprimand, mark for death kidney, SHIV, Zang first, and then Deathmark, and then go back into our mutilates and our envenoms, anything we need to do out of that. And that's the proper order for the big burst. Now let me tell you why. Something I learned today from RAZ was that, let me get away from these training dummies, if you Zang after your Deathmark, you cut the Deathmark duration in half. So new rogue here, for assassination at least, I was pressing Deathmark then Zang, because in my head it made sense. But RAZ has clarified you want to Zang into your Deathmark or you're going to shorten the duration of it. And of course, the reason I got everything else running is because the goal of the game is to always have your rupture, your garrote, and your slice and dice already up. And then you can thistle tea ahead of time as well. And then ideally, you're trying to get your reprimand, mark for death, kidney, and then these abilities off. But you could just as easily not have reprimand up and go straight into this rotation. But really important you guys note that Zang into Deathmark is the proper rotation for a Sass Rogue. So I asked RAZ if he ever varies his talents at all, and he said that he definitely plays no Mortal Strike when he has another class that provides Mortal Strike. Rogue's Mortal Strike is 23.5%, and every other class with Mortal Strike is 25%, so far more valuable than the Rogue. So I'm going to have a build in the description that's the Arena build, the Solo Shuffle build when you need Mortal Strike because you don't have one, and the build without it. It'll look something just like this. So when you're not running Mortal Strike, what we're going to take for the other poison is Amplifying Poison. And what you're going to do is you're going to take your wound poison off and you're going to apply Amplifying Poison. And this is going to do its own damage as well as Envenom's going to consume stacks to do more damage. This is the alternative when we do not run with Mortal Strike because we have one on our team. I'm going to take you guys through a slow-mo version of what you just saw. But first, I wanted to touch on the talent trees. So this is the build for the AoE single target in one build. I don't know what I'm going to call it yet on the YouTube channel, but this is an AoE build with still some utility for single target damage. And the reason for that is a lot of the times you're going to end up cleaving a lot of targets. But in RBGs, if you choose to run this in an arena or a solo shuffle, certain times they're not going to be grouped up. So you're still going to want some single target. You might have a big team fight, but then Assassin Rogue can be a great floater, and you might end up in a 2v2 or a 3v3 situation. So this AoE build is really strong in team fight, but also provides you some value in skirmishing. So The difference between this AoE build and the build you're going to see in a second is the single target. So this build is going to still give you the serrated bone spike. You're going to get Doomblade. You're going to get internal bleeding. You're going to get Venom Rush. And you're going to get Vicious Venoms. And then this talent point is a little bit optional. Increasing the envenom duration by 2 seconds is great. But if I unclick it, there's a couple good options as well. I actually find Intent to Kill extremely strong. Having that extra shadow step feels really smooth. I find this word that I can't pronounce for that extra damage really fun. I also think that Systematic Failure is another good option. So if you unclick Twist of the Knife, you'll see the other options you can get. And I think play around with those. They're a little bit situational. It's a little bit too in-depth for where I want to go, but keep that in mind. And then on the left side, depending on what you're doing, you can take Gouge off, and you could add Tight Spender if you know you're going to be team fighting. The 10% does start to add up when we start to run out of Thistleteas, or you can just select Gouge. So this is the build that you're going to be seeing, and I'm going to break it down for you right now, how everything works, how the Carnage works with the Echoing, and everything together. So let's get into it. All right, I'm going to take you through why we're using the abilities in this order and how they all work together. You just saw it in full speed. Now let me break it down for you so you have a better understanding. The first ability we're using is Thistletea to get a 13% mastery increase on our opener. Now, after the first one, you want to save these Thistleteas and use them more to get the 100 energy than just to try to get in a little bit of extra damage. The reason we're able to run such a little haste is actually because of these Thistleteas, and they're quite important. But for the large AoE openers, I like to mix in a Thistletea. Then we're going to press Carnage, and as soon as we activate Carnage, you're going to see we get the buff up here. And now this buff will stay here until I use a Garrote and a Rupture. So the next ability, of course, because we're still in stealth, is going to be Garrote. And it's going to hit all the targets, apply our Iron Wire debuff, our Garrote Poison, and our Garrote Silence, as well as both our poisons are going to be applied at this time. So you have to do these three first because you need to Garrote from stealth to get the effects. After that, I added the PvP badge, and then we're going to press Echoing. You can see we're at 3 combo points with that opener. As soon as we press the PvP badge and then Echoing, we go to 5 combo points. Now, once we get 5 combo points, you can see our Carnage is still up here. And again, Carnage makes Garrote hit everybody, but it's going to make our next Rupture hit everybody. So then we're going to press Rupture. And now my Trophy GCD, it's going to show, that's what the add-on is. It shows a lot of these Ruptures in a row, but I've only pressed it one time. But it's going to apply to everybody. So now we have our Garrote bleed on everybody, and we have our Rupture bleed on everybody, and we're going to go into the AoE rotation. So you're going to see here, this is super important, that I press 1 Fan of Knives, and I have 3 combo points. Now, I want to go into a little bit detail on how your Echoing ability works. When you press Echoing, you can see I have 3 buffs at the top of my screen. Now, these 3 buffs represent these 3 special combo points. And when I use it, use an ability like Fan of Knives and it lands on one of these combo points, I can instantly press Crimson Tempest or any finishing move, and it will consume and hit as hard as a 7-pointer. So right here, I'm not going to press another Fan of Knives. I'm going to Crimson Tempest, and it's going to hit like a 7-stacker, okay? And then watch what happens. After that, after we got our entire AoE opener, you're going to be looking to put some pressure. So I've mixed in what I would be doing is Mark for Death kidneying your kill target, popping your Deathmark, and then shivving to apply the Mortal Strike. And while that person is CC'd, putting a bomb on them, and then going back into your AoE rotation. So again, right here, I do one more Fan of Knives. This was actually a perfect recording. It lands again on our Echoing, and right here, I can go right into a 7-point Tempest because I don't need to get the last combo point because it's a blue combo point. So anytime you land on the blue combo point, you can consume it as if it was 7. So you're going to see I go ahead and Tempest, and then right there, it didn't land on a blue one, so I had to press it twice in a row. It actually looks like I pressed it before the 5th just to get the damage out. So again, sometimes it's not going to be perfect, but even you can see the damage at the end. Even with one little error, you're going to be doing insane damage. So you're going to see I'm just going back into some AoE. Since it didn't land on the 2nd one, it landed on the 3rd one. I go press Fan of Knives again to get the 5, and then I'm AoEing. And then, of course, guys, keep in mind that from here on out, you're going to be using the rest of your kit. You're going to be mutilating, which you should know what it does, or you would have saw in the beginner guide, into your envenoms, and then getting back into your AoE bleeds. Again, you can vanish offensively once your next Carnage is back up to repeat the rotation. But you can see it's playing 103k DPS. It's extremely easy to follow, and it's going to make any AoE situation a lot of fun for you guys. Okay, so you just saw the AoE mixing with some single target build. This build I'm about to take you through, or that you just saw, I guess, for a couple seconds, I'm going to take you through the slow-mo version, is absolutely insane because we're now taking away that single target that I've already talked about in the previous part, and we're adding in 500% damage to our SHIV and making it cost no energy. Our poisons and bleeds are going to deal 45% damage when teams finally start rotting down below 35%. Although that's not the big thing here. The big thing is we're going to take Arterial Precision. SHIV strikes 4 additional nearby enemies and increases your bleed damage done by 20%. So the 20% damage done is awesome. But we're taking this PvP talent, Hemotoxin, every single time. And what it's going to do is it's going to reduce the target's healing by 35%. And now when we take this SHIV, we're basically going to have, well, we are going to SHIV during the rotation, and it's going to SHIV everybody around and put a 35% reduced healing debuff on them, which is absolutely insane when used correctly. So I'm going to take you through everything you need to know about that, and then everything else is going to be pretty similar to what you just saw. So if you watched the video before, now you're watching this video, it should make sense that we're removing some of the single target abilities that I talked about, our Bone Spike, adding in the SHIV. Let's get to it. Alright guys, so a similar rotation to the AoE build you probably just saw, but in case you didn't watch it, you skipped to this specific part, I'm going to walk you through it a little bit again. It's going to be good repetition. It's going to help you get down AoE in general with Rogue. The first thing I'm going to do is Thistle for the 13% mastery, because I think that having 13% mastery on your opener when you're getting all your abilities out unscathed is extremely strong. Thistle into a Carnage, which is going to make our next Garrote hit everybody. So I'm going to let it play. You'll see the Carnage makes our Garrote hit everybody. And then once we have our Garrote Silence, Bleed, and Iron Wire debuff on them, I'm going to have the Sinful Badge proc, and I'm going to press our Echoing. And then once we Echo, we'll get our 5 combo points into a Rupture. And then we will press Fan and Knives. Because we landed on a blue combo point, Echoing Reprimand makes blue combo points when we land on them, deal damage as if it were 7. So I'm going to go ahead here and hopefully press Crimson Tempest. I do, which is perfect. And this is where the difference comes into the AoE build. This is insane. We're going to press SHIV next. So what we've done is we have our Garrote Bleed on them. We have our Tempest Bleed. We have our Rupture on them. We have all our poison spread. And now we're going to press SHIV. And you're going to see SHIV does pretty big damage because it's 500% increased dam with one of the talents. You're going to see it's right here. Now for 8 seconds with that PvP talent I just talked about, they have 35% reduced healing. So while this is ticking on them, all our bleeds, everybody around has 35% debuff on them. Everybody's bleeding for insane damage. We're at 105k here. And while this is bleeding, you have a couple options. You go back into your AoE, continue to spread your bleeds, or you can see on the right here, I added your options, right? So we're going to go into a Mark for Death Kidney. We're going to press our T as we start to get Energy Starve, which we're not yet. So this on the right here is in a direct order. These are just suggestions of things to do. You're going to mix in your Deathmark, and then you're going to be able to use your next SHIV when you feel like the time is right. Maybe on your Deathmark Kidney, maybe another AoE SHIV when they start rotting, but you definitely don't want to press SHIV twice and double apply. You want to space that out, and then you can mix in your Envenoms onto your kill target while everybody's bleeding up, okay? So we'll just go through the rest. You can see that I'm Tempesting. Once I land on the 4th blue combo point, I don't have to get the 5th one. I'll go ahead and Tempest, and then Mark for Death Kidney, throw in a T,
throwing in a SHIV, and then back into the AoE, or again, like I said, into the Envenoms, into the Mutilates. Maybe now is your time to cross CC. It's really up to you guys, but I just wanted to be clear that now with this build, your SHIV is going to put a huge MS on everybody, and mixed in with your team's pressure, it's going to make a tremendous difference in team fight. You're pumping damage, reducing healing. You have a lot of good defensives, a lot of good offensives. Rogue is in a really, really good place right now.
All right, guys, so if you didn't know this, I'm going to go ahead and show you. Watch when I hit Clausy here, okay? And I get my 4 poisons up on him, and I get my 5 stacks of wound poison. So just give us a sec here. There we go. I have 5 stacks of wound poison. As soon as you throw a poison knife, watch the poison disappear and reset to 1. So there's a bug in the game. Apparently, it's been in here for a while where if you throw a poison knife at your target, it actually has a high likely chance of completely wiping your MS stacks and removing your deadly poison. So be really careful when you use poison knife in that scenario. However, something I thought was really cool that RAZ showed me is poison knife can be used to apply your mind numbing onto a caster that's far away from you. And if this druid was a priest and they were going for a fear onto my healer, something I could do is throw the poison knife to get my crippling poison on them to slow them down. So there's a lot of utility for poison knife in niche scenarios, I should say, where you can slow enemies, you can get mind numbing up to a caster that's further away. But keep in mind, if you poison knife your target with 5 mortal strike stacks, it's going to fall off. Okay, I covered this a couple times in the video. Really quick segment on your echoing reprimand. So echoing reprimand is going to do initial damage, but then you're going to get these 3 blue highlights. And you can see I get the buff up here. If you didn't know this, when you land on a blue dot just like this, when I press Envenom or any finishing move, even though it's only 2 combo points, since it landed on a blue combo point, my Envenom's now going to hit like a 5 to 7 stack. Let me read it to just clarify. 7 points. So right here, you see we have the buff. I'm going to go quickly. This Envenom now hits for a 7-point Envenom. Then when I mutilate, it lands on another blue one. I don't need to mutilate again for 5. I can Envenom, and that's another 7-point Envenom. And then I'm trying to land on this blue one for the 3rd free 7-point Envenom. So that's the real strength of echoing outside of it doing max dam, is it lets you save globals and get 7-point finishers off without needing to press the button twice to get to the 5 combo points. All right, I want to combine all 3 of these into one quick segment here. The first thing I want to say is when you commit your Zang and Deathmark, you're putting your eggs into one basket. You're doing all your damage at once. And I think that that's fine the first time around. After that, because Deathmark's a 2-minute cooldown and Zang's a 3-minute cooldown, it becomes wonky and they no longer line up. So I just want to let you guys know it's totally fine after the first go. And sometimes you don't even have to use them both in the first go, but most time you do. After the first go, you're going to be spreading these out for the rest of the game because you're never going to want to wait an entire minute to send your Deathmark. Sometimes anything can happen, but realistically, after your first go, you're going to be spreading these out. So don't be afraid to press your Zang without your Deathmark. The next thing I thought was kind of cool is Fan of Knives is good if 3 people stack up. If 3 people stack up, you could throw a Fan of Knives. If it crits, you get 5 combo points and be able to jump into one of your finishers. And one of the talents that we decide between is Cheat Death, which I think is really good for beginners. It saves you if you make a mistake, gives your healer a chance. However, once you get the real like swing of things in threes, you'll know when you're going to die, and you're going to be trying to prevent that in any way you can. And how you do that is running elusiveness and running with feint. RAZ said this, and I think it's honestly good to just let you guys run with this one. Feint is something that your intuition's going to pick up. You're going to sense damage coming in. Sometimes you can just see a mage combusting and you're running behind the pillar. You're going to feint off some of that damage. Sometimes you can feel some damage coming. So make sure you mix in feint when you run elusiveness with your intuition when you feel the damage is coming. If you want to simplify things, just take Cheat Death. Okay, I'm going to take you through a game mechanic that RAZ taught me. This is not specific to Rogue. It's specific to dot classes, but it's going to work for Rogue and for Assassination. And the game mechanic is called Pandemic. And what Blizzard has done is they've built into the game that if you have a dot on someone,
you can refresh that same dot early and add up to 30% of the duration of the old dot. So because we have a PvP talent called Improve Garrote, we have 30% increased damage, can garrote for 3 seconds after breaking stealth. A lot of the times, you're going to find a tremendous amount of value in casting garrote and then rupture and then garrote. And I'm going to show you guys why. So notice when I garrote him here, it's going to be 18 seconds. I'm going to rupture and then re-garrote. And the second garrote's not going to apply 18 seconds. It's going to go even higher and give us that 30% pandemic window I was talking about. So I'm going to garrote, 17, rupture, re-garrote, and it goes to 23. Because what it did is it took 30% of the dot and added it on. And why this is important is because that gives us extra ticks on our garrotes of 30% damage. So I'm going to show you one more time of me just pressing garrote back to back without the ruptures, just so you can see that it doesn't just go back to back 18s. It applies the multiplier, the pandemic, the hidden game mechanic. So I garrote once and garrote again, and you can see the time goes up because of the game mechanic. I thought it was really cool. It's a bonus tip for you guys. It works for all bleeds, for the dots, and you're just not going to find that kind of content anywhere else. So huge shout out to RAZ. He taught it to me. I'm telling it to you guys. Maybe it's commonly known, but it wasn't commonly known to me, and I'm sure not a lot of you. So take that with you. Splurge it on to your friends. Quiz them. See if they know that. Okay, guys, for the PvP talents, the first PvP talent I'm going to talk about is Hemotoxin. As an assassination rogue, you are 100% of the time running Hemo, adding your SHIV, whether it's an arena, solo shuffle, and especially an RBG for the AoE SHIV build we talked about, is extremely potent. You want that big mortal strike so that their team has a hard time topping them, and so that their own abilities have a hard time topping them. The other two, depending on arena or RBG or solo shuffle or personal preference, you have a few options. So don't overlook maneuverability. This is extremely strong for rogues for more uptime in arena and in solo shuffle. Okay, so work in maneuverability, work in disarm into certain comps, work in Veil of Midnight into certain comps you might be struggling with. When you cloak, you're also going to get that dodge chance so that you actually get topped off by your healer. And Control as King actually has a lot of good utility as well to keep that energy up. And then, of course, the Smoke Bomb. Okay, so I don't want to tell you guys, and Paste didn't want to tell you guys, just run these three. There's quite a few, but just run Hemotoxin, and then with the ones I just talked about, mix those in these two slots, depending on what you're facing, depending on what you enjoy. But most of the time, I like to take Smoke Bomb. I like putting someone into that kitty with no trinket and bombing them so they can't get any outward help. And then I usually mix in this third talent between Disarm into certain teams, Maneuverability into certain teams, Control as King, and then sometimes Veil of Midnight. The other ones have a little bit of situational stuff, but it's so rare, and Pace is working on just seeing where it really fits that we're not going to talk about those yet. Okay, guys, so I think talking about the best race is important, but I also think that a lot of the reason we play the game is because we like the way we look, we like the class, we like a little bit of the story. So remember that throughout this entire guide, it's just to give you guys a core, give you something really, really strong to start with or to adapt to, and then I always want you building off of it. So when I'm going to tell you that the best race is Night Elf, because you're able to shadow meld, and then you're able to stealth, and when you come out of stealth, you're going to be able to have your garrote for that 3 more seconds. On top of that, when you shadow meld and go invisible, you can use that to survive. Like I said, you use that to reopen. There's so many high-tech situations where Night Elf is awesome, but keep in mind that the Dwarf racials are really strong right now into countering other rogues, other feral druids, and then keep in mind that I want you guys playing what you think looks the best aesthetically. It is a huge advantage if you're someone who's pushing and wants to min-max to play Night Elf. However, I don't want to say the racials aren't huge, because unfortunately World of Warcraft has made them huge, but you can live without them. You can enjoy the game, you can enjoy the lore, the class that you want to play without them, but for the sake of the video, I have to say that Night Elf Rogue is almost by far the best. The only times the other ones come close is when you know you're struggling into certain comps. The must-have add-on for Rogue is called Diminish, and what Diminish is going to do is when I sap erratic, read at the top left, it's going to show now his sap DR. And when I sap him again, it'll go from green to yellow, because green means half a duration, yellow now means the third, and now that it's red, it's no longer going to work, okay? I'll show you a couple other examples. When I mark for def kidney erratic, just going to try to just get the kidney off, walk away, you can see the kidney is green here. Now if I vanish and cheap shot him, you'll see that the kidney goes yellow. So red means they can't be affected by that at all. Green means it's going to be half, and yellow means it'll be a third, I guess. To be honest, I'm not quite sure. And the way this is set up is once you download the add-on, it'll be below diminish. You go to your nameplates and you adjust your X and Y on the toggle mode over their nameplate. And then the next thing you can do if you want is you can click on player, and you can, if I click toggle test, do you see right here? You can actually have DRs for yourself if you want to track when you're on DR and you can't be stunned, or when you get kidneyed and trinketed, you have now kind of a countdown timer on when they're going to kidney you again. So it's extremely important. I find this to be the best ability to track everything on Rogue, and a lot of the times your teammates are going to stun. Your teammates might have a cooldown that shares with the sap DR, with your gouge, with your blind, with all your things, right? So download this add-on. It's insane. If you want to see some more PvP add-ons, in the description below will be my YouTube video for PvP add-ons. It has somewhere around 20k views. It's been really helpful for a lot of people. So check that video out for overall PvP add-ons. All right, guys, a little more direction with Rogue. Something that I learned that I thought was really cool is about our Deathmark. Now, right now, Assassination is extremely strong overall, but it has an extremely strong finisher called Deathmark. And what I've learned is with Rogue, it's a little unique compared to a lot of other classes. A lot of classes need to trade their cooldowns early to get enemy cooldowns. However, with Rogue, because you're putting someone into a long kidney shot, with the help of your teammates, you force a lot of their cooldowns without needing the extra damage of Deathmark. So what I want to tell you is look to use Deathmark when you're trying to land a kill. And I know you're thinking land a kill. I'm always trying to land a kill, but try this out. Don't open with Deathmark instantly. Instead, play the game as if you didn't have Deathmark, and then all of a sudden remembered you had it in a time where they have nothing. Because let's say you open up onto the enemy with a kidney shot, and just your normal damage plus a teammate forces a lot of their cooldowns no matter what. So if you put the Deathmark in, when they force their cooldowns, now they're getting a lot of value of using their defensives on your Deathmark. But when you force them to use defensives without Deathmark because you stun lock them, so they're not able to run away, right? Like a lot of times other classes, a warrior might jump on somebody, the other class just gets away. But when Rogue opens on you, you're stuck unless you trade something. So Rogue's kind of a unique class where it's going to get a lot of strong opens where they can't do anything about it. And then you bring in the Deathmark later on to secure the kill. When you know the mage has no ice block, when you know the healer has no trinket and no way out. So a really fun tip. I really want you guys to let me know in the comments below, or I'm just going to be hoping that you try that out. I think you're going to be very surprised at the success you have when you try it without Deathmark in the opener and then mix it in a little bit into the game to secure that kill.